Visionary Nikola Tesla was deeply concerned that the plunder-for-profit mentality of the industrial age would ultimately prove disastrous for the human population and the planet as well. He bluntly stated, only technology that served to benefit both humanity and planet Earth could be called progress. As early as 1908, Tesla revealed in a New York Times article the key to ultimate power could be found with the ancient fundamentals of etheric energy manipulation, or what today would be called torsion physics technology, a radical alternative physics that could manipulate the very fabric of time and space to access unlimited free energy and provide revolutionary anti-gravity propulsion systems. To protect the corporate profitability of power company monopolies, robber baron J.P. Morgan ordered the destruction of Tesla's prototype free energy transmission generator on Long Island, the Wardenclyffe Tower, after which Tesla faded into near obscurity. But a little over 10 years after his torsion physics article appeared in the New York Times, rumors surfaced scientists in Germany were also exploring the potentials of torsion physics propulsion. And over the course of World War II, circumstantial evidence suggests German engineers did successfully design circular field propulsion flying machines. But by the late 1950s, Otis T. Carr, an inventor who as a young man found himself inspired by Tesla's creations, built a working prototype of a field propulsion Tesla engine. According to Carr's engineering associate, Ralph Ring, Otis T. Carr, as a young man, was employed at the New Yorker Hotel, where Nikola Tesla lived. The two became acquainted, and Carr, who was himself an aspiring young inventor, was urged by Tesla to pursue the propulsion technologies he had discovered, hoping future generations would be more open to new ideas. And by the late 1950s, Carr himself had designed a working prototype saucer based on Tesla's original concept. Along with a small group of engineers and technicians, Carr built a flying disc powered by rotating electromagnets in conjunction with a number of small, ingenious capacitor-like devices called Utrons. A number of prototypes were built, ranging in size from experimental models a few feet across to a passenger-carrying craft which was fully 45 feet in diameter. The smaller discs flew successfully. One even dematerialized completely and was permanently lost. And Ralph Ring himself testifies to having co-piloted the large craft a distance of some 10 miles, traversing the distance instantaneously, a bilocation effect not unlike the famous Philadelphia experiment. The most amazing aspect of Carr's propulsion unit was that once it achieved zero-point acceleration, it seemed to link directly to the consciousness of the operator. In other words, as a flying craft, the pilot's own consciousness would become the ship's guidance system. Carr was seriously intent upon taking his craft to the moon. However, 2 weeks after Ralph's dramatic flight experience, their laboratory was forcibly shut down by government agents, and all files and documentations were confiscated. The group was forced to disband and cease any and all contact with one another, leaving the project incomplete and abandoned. Ralph Ring recalls the government's cease and desist order stated that we were attempting to overthrow the monetary system of the United States, and that could be construed as high treason, and we are shutting you down and confiscating all your equipment. The powers that be, namely the power companies, weren't quite interested in anything to do with Tesla or Carr, and didn't want this information out. It was even beyond the energy companies, and it can be traced to this day back to the international banking system out of England. That's where this all started, the monetary system per se. In 1956, Hollywood showcased anti-gravity propulsion in the MGM science fiction thriller Forbidden Planet, a film featuring Earth humans, rather than aliens, piloting flying saucers into deep space. In fact, this film actually offered a glimpse of the sleek space cruiser's electromagnetic engine coil. The following year, 1957, Walt Disney aired a television documentary called Mars and Beyond, featuring visionary rocket designer Wernher von Braun's proposed manned mission to the Red Planet. But contained within this program was a cryptic reference to anti-gravity propulsion research. Rocket ships of all sizes and shapes have been designed, but most of them rely on an enormous consumption of chemical fuel to escape the pull of Earth's gravity. A spaceship using an electromagnetic drive to neutralize gravity is the obvious answer, but such a device is still a dream for the future. Public disclosure of fantastic new propulsion technologies seemed imminent. By 1959, the United States Air Force unveiled its own sleek, Hollywood-style flying saucer called the Avro Disc, destined to make all other forms of supersonic aircraft obsolete. But in public demonstrations, the Avro Disc bobbled and wobbled, barely lifting off the runway. Were government saucer projects just a pipe dream or a smokescreen? Following the Avro Disc's embarrassing failure, flying saucer research was sternly denounced as an unfeasible and unwarranted waste of taxpayers' money. By December of 1961, the Air Force officially withdrew all participation in the Avro project, and the hapless contraption was relegated to the Air Force Museum at Fort Eustis, Virginia, worthy of only collecting dust, and certainly no match for the awesome spectacle of rocketry the world would experience for the next 3 decades. Further public discussion of anti-gravity propulsion development abruptly ceased. By 1961, Otis Carr was utterly whitewashed as a fraud and swindler. His laboratory was raided and destroyed, and engineers working with him were ordered to disband and even cease contact with one another. But by the early 60s, public attention was already thoroughly distracted and seduced by the National Space Program, and it truly was a national obsession. President Eisenhower had established a civilian space agency, NASA, that along with full mass media coverage of rocket launches created an irresistible perception that all of the American people were participants in a collective enterprise to put man in space. Each year of that decade saw ever more daring space launches with manned orbital flights and spacewalks, all culminating with the climactic spectacle of Apollo 11's moon landing success. But with the conclusion of the Apollo missions, the whole character of NASA changed. Saturn rocket launches were abandoned, subsequent space shuttle launches were labeled classified. More and more, the public was locked out of whatever NASA was doing in space, as if it had become a very private space exploration club. And of course, over time it became clear NASA was never a truly civilian agency, but rather a stalwart division of the Defense Department. But while the national security state continues to publicly advance rocket technology for defense and manned space projects, does it in fact possess top-secret field propulsion technologies able to transcend linear spaceflight altogether? Aside from providing spectacular video footage, giant rockets are in fact a monstrous waste of energy and certainly no match for the performance of UFOs. Chemical rockets are clumsy, inefficient, and totally impractical for interstellar exploration. The ultimate secret to space travel is manipulation of the unified field, the fundamental fabric of the space-time continuum itself. Ben Rich, the father of the stealth fighter bomber and former head of Lockheed Skunk-Works, in charge of operations from 1975 to 1991, confided just before his death in 1995 that the Black Ops Research Group had mastered field propulsion flight systems. In his famous quote, Ben Rich declared, "We now have the technology to take ET home. No, it won't take someone's lifetime to do it. We now have the capability to travel to the stars. First, you have to understand that we will not get to the stars using chemical propulsion. Rich further confided that linear space travel was impractical, but that all points in space-time are connected. Field propulsion systems can transcend linear time, making interstellar space travel a workable practicality. In the span of time from 1947 to 1995, alien technological realities, at first intellectually shattering, had, according to Rich, become workable scientific practicalities to terrestrial engineers. According to MUFON Executive Director Jan Hartzan, he states, "We have a letter on file from Ben Rich, former president and CEO of the Lockheed Skunk-Works, where he states there are two kinds of UFOs, those of extraterrestrial origin and those that we manufacture. And those that are of extraterrestrial origin had a great impact on the development of our own UFOs."